Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to Award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience, and today we bring you the story of Pete Newell's Big Man Camp. Those of you who know Coach Pete Newell is known as being one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time. He was a man who loved his players and drilled down to the details of specific moves and techniques. He was the coach that other coaches went to for advice on instruction on how to teach other players aspects of the game. But this is not a profile on the life and career of Pete Newell. Today, we are talking about his big man camp that he started after he retired from coaching team basketball. And while he coached at several different universities, his final stop was coaching the University of California, or Cal for short. He retired from coaching at the age of 44, having led the Golden Bears to the 1959 NCAA championship using starters that he did not even recruit. You know, they say in basketball that even the greatest coaches cannot win unless they have supremely talented players. Hall of Fame coach Jerry Tarkanian once said, quote, "I always like to say that you can't win without the horses, unless you're Pete Newell," unquote. That is the kind of respect that Newell had from the coaching community. The feeling was that Newell could take almost any group of players and transform them into a highly competitive team. But coaching a team was always so stressful for Newell, which is why he had to retire at such a young age. He would get so nervous for games that he could not eat the day before and the day of a game. At the university level, teams play at least twice a week, which means that Newell was not eating for 3 or 4 days each week, and he had a massive smoking habit, which he was later able to quit. His health was really suffering when he coached a team, but what he did love was practice. That was a time when he could just focus on improving the skills of the players, whether it be individual skills or team skills like passing and moving. He absolutely loved that part of the game. So it made complete sense that he started his big man camp where he could focus on improving a player's skill without having to worry about an upcoming game. That was like heaven for Pete Newell. The camp itself started quite organically. There was no master plan on what would eventually become the big man camp. Back in the summer of 1976, Newell was the general manager of the Los Angeles Lakers. He would eventually hand over those duties to Jerry West. However, in 1976, the job was still his, and he had a challenge of trying to replace a recently retired Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, there was nobody on earth who could truly replace Chamberlain, but the Lakers are trying to have Kermit Washington play in the post and be that option in the middle. However, it wasn't really working out. Washington had virtually no post skills. He was used to playing while facing the basket. He was not used to playing with his back to the basket. He needed some help desperately, or he was going to be out of a job. Now, he knew that his own general manager, Pete Newell, was known for being one of the great coaches. So, with a lot of trepidation, Washington approached Newell and asked for help. After a conversation to confirm to Newell that Washington was really serious about it, they agreed to meet 3 times per week that summer. And Newell was an early riser. He told Washington that they would meet at 7:30 a.m. and they would work for 3 solid hours. And they used the gym at Loyola Marymount University, where Summer League used to be held back then. So on the first day, Kermit Washington showed up and he brought another player with him. That player was Kiki Vandeweghe, who was still playing at UCLA. Donnie Ford also showed up. He was a backup player for the Lakers and wanted to improve his own skills to stay in the NBA. Now, the one thing that they say about Pete Newell is that he is one of the nicest and most mild-mannered men you could ever meet. They say that his personality comes off more like a university professor than a basketball coach, but once practice starts, he becomes a drill sergeant. Washington expected the sessions to be gentle and more about trying out some new moves, but that was not how Newell ran his sessions. This was more like boot camp. Washington, Vandeweghe, and Ford were pouring with sweat after each session. The drills were not only physically taxing, but mentally as well. Washington said that once the sessions were over, he could not walk for several hours, and these sessions did not include scrimmage, dunking, or any bit of showmanship. This was a blue-collar work session. It was just 3 straight hours of drills. They worked on post moves, footwork drills, hook shots, up and under moves, you name it. They ran through the full gamut of low post moves and techniques, and then they also worked on defending those same moves. And you know what? Kermit Washington got better. I mean, a lot better. He became a completely new player that summer, a significantly improved player. He now had a whole new arsenal of moves that he could use that following season in the NBA. And the season before, working with Newell, Washington averaged 3 points and 5 rebounds per game in 14 minutes of action. After that summer, he was just a hair under 10 points and 10 rebounds per night in 25 minutes of action. He went from a guy who was nearly cut from the league to a solid and respected forward. Later, Washington said that he never understood what it meant to truly work hard at basketball, but now he knew. During the summer, the players were improving so much that the word got out. Gail Goodrich started showing up to the sessions. So did Tom Abernathy and Elmore Smith. Pete Newell's camp was becoming something special. Now, this is a good place to take a break, and I'll be right back with more on Pete Newell's Big Man Camp.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with the story of Pete Newell's Big Man Camp. Now, back in that first summer of 1976, when Newell was working with Kermit Washington, the camp did not have a name. Pete Newell never anticipated that these sessions would become a regular summer thing. In his mind, this was a one-time thing to help Kermit Washington improve his skills. But the following summer in 1977, Washington wanted some more. So did a bunch of other guys. The entire league saw how much Washington had improved, and when he told everyone that it was because of Pete Newell, a lot of NBA players wanted in on that camp. Over the next couple of decades, the camp became a who's who of NBA talent. And just to be clear, Pete Newell did not limit the camp to only big men. He was more than happy to have smaller players participate, but it was always called a big man camp because the focus was on low post play, both offensively and defensively. Washington became such a disciple of Newell's that Washington became his assistant at these camps after he retired from playing. He would help organize the camp, sort out schedules, secure a gym, and even organize a way to record the sessions on video as a coaching tool for other coaches. Over the years, the campus had players like Harvey Grant, Scottie Pippen, Xavier McDaniel, Purvis Short, Chuck Person, Olden Polynice, and Dale Ellis. He also saw players like James Worthy, Sam Perkins, Charles Oakley, Brad Doherty, and Chris Mullin. For a while in the 1990s, they decided to move the camp from LA to Honolulu, Hawaii, and he got players like Shaquille O'Neal, Shawn Kemp, Danny Manning, and Vlade Divac to show up and learn from the great Pete Newell. Every single one of these players gave credit to Pete Newell for improving their game, and there is one concept that completely blew me away. At the same time, it made so much sense once I understood it. Every player has a dominant hand and a weak hand. The dominant hand is typically the shooting hand for any player. Well, players also have a dominant foot and a weak foot. Most players, when starting out, will only pivot on their dominant foot because it just feels more natural. Well, one of the concepts that Newell impressed on his players was to develop that weak foot. He had all kinds of drills for improving the weak foot. I mean, it makes complete sense. Every player in the NBA needs to develop both hands for dribbling, so why not develop both feet for pivoting and making post moves? When Shaq first entered the NBA, he only pivoted on his right foot, his dominant foot. But it did not take long for defenses to figure that out. Once a player learned how to pivot and play off of either foot, it completely opens up a player's post game. And Shaq had to learn that, and so did a bunch of other players. But not everyone bought into the camp. Benoit Benjamin signed up for the camp, but then showed up late and gave very little effort. His own general manager from the Clippers, Elgin Baylor, sent him home because Benjamin's lack of effort was disrespectful to the great Pete Newell. Bill Walton showed up one summer, and he did not play well with others. He kept stopping the drills to say something like, "Well, this is how we used to do it at UCLA." Well, after that, he was not allowed to return. Maybe he just thought he knew better because he played for John Wooden. After all, Pete Newell and John Wooden had a bit of a coaching rivalry, having both coached in the same collegiate conference for years. And maybe Walton just felt like he needed to defend Wooden's honor. Who knows? Now, back in the 1980s and 1990s, the Knicks begged Patrick Ewing to go to the camp, but he always refused. He said that he preferred to do his off-season work on the East Coast. And on the other hand, Hakeem Olajuwon fine-tuned his dream shake over several summers of attending Pete Newell's camp. That situation came to a head in 1994 when the Knicks and the Rockets played each other in the NBA Finals. It was Ewing versus Olajuwon, and that was a hard-fought 7-game series with the Rockets walking away with the trophy. But some in the Knicks organization felt that Ewing was outplayed by Olajuwon, and if Ewing would have just gone to that camp and expanded his post moves, then maybe, just maybe, the Knicks win that championship. Now, most of that is just rumors and conjecture, but I do believe that Ewing would have benefited from going to the camp. I mean, everybody else did. And here is another thing about Newell. He did not ask for a single penny from Kermit Washington or any of the other guys who came through the camp. He did it because he loved basketball and he loved helping these guys improve their game. Eventually, Kermit Washington and Stu Lance, a former Lakers player and current broadcaster, insisted that the players at least pay to cover the cost of renting the gym, to pay the trainers, and to cover insurance. And in nearly every case, the teams that these players played for covered those fees on behalf of the player. The NBA players were charged about 3 times what the college players were charged, and everyone was okay with that. The benefits that they received as players was literally worth millions of dollars in NBA contracts. So what was a couple of $1,000s here or there? But since Newell would never take any money for himself, one year the pro players got together and bought him a nice Datsun sports car, and he loved that car. Even Newell's wife noticed the smile that Newell had every time he got behind the wheel of that car. Pete Newell saved more than a few careers with his big man camp, and there really is nothing like that camp today, and that is a shame. Some people say that it isn't a big deal because nobody plays in the post with their back to the basket anymore. And that is partly true, but to be a complete basketball player, you've got to have post moves in your bag of tricks. There are a whole lot of players from the 1970s, 80s, and 90s that owe their careers to Pete Newell. He was an amazing coach, and as salaries rose exponentially in the 1980s, more than a few players have tried to pay Newell. He always refused any payment, even after the camp was formalized and became an annual thing. He was quite a man. Well, that is the story of Pete Newell's big man camp. Join us next week when we share the story of Larry Costello. He was the last NBA player who used the two-handed set shot when everybody else had switched to the one-handed jump shot. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find shorter historical posts as well as comments and discussion starters on today's game. I'll also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care and see you soon.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.